A lot of people keep asking for the build, but the problem is if you don't understand how it got here, you won't understand why it works. Paladin was never the meta. Even before launch, it already got nerfed. Most players avoided it. Some even called it a trash class. But I still choose it. And for the past 30 days, I didn't try to prove that it is the strongest. I tried to understand how to make it work. But choosing it was just the start. Because at launch, Paladin went back to what people expected it to be, a tank. And sacrifice was no longer the meta. Almost everyone was calling it a trash class. So most players drop it or even stop trying to make it work. But I didn't. I still wanted to play sacrifice. And this is where I started to see the problem. Because the people who were still using sacrifice were building it the wrong way. They were forcing it, trying to play it like before, chasing damage. But that doesn't work anymore. So instead of building it for DPS, I build it for sustainability. And that's where Hunterfly cards came in. And that's where the direction started to make sense. And from here, that's when things started to get confusing. A lot of people were asking, should I go full DPS or should I go full tank? And this is where the problem really starts. Because the ones trying to go full DPS are the same people asking, why am I dying? Why I can't sustain? Because they are forcing sacrifice as a pure damage build. They are chasing damage. They're copying the build. But at the same time, they were forcing more damage on top of it. And because of that, they fall apart, especially in fights. On the other side, the one who are going full tank, they survive. But that's it. They're just standing there, taking damage, but not really contributing anything. And that's why they get frustrated. Because they are alive, but they were not impacted. And this is where I keep saying build it for sustainability. It has to be balanced. You can play sacrifice on either full DPS or full tank. So instead of choosing one, I started building in between. And this is where I started scaling through physical damage and adding some critical damage. But at the same time, I was also building reductions so I can stay alive and still deal enough damage to stay relevant in fights. And this is also where I brought back Shield Reflect, which changes the entire build. But at this stage, I'm not using it for damage, but for repositioning and quick escape. So instead of locking into one role, I build it around balance and flexibility. I also made mistakes. I owe that to you. I keep telling people that elemental cards are not part of scaling, and I didn't catch it at first because of the bug on the dummy. So instead, I tested it on a controlled setup using an MVP dummy. And this is where it became clear. It actually works. So this is just a correction, nothing more. And this is where most people misunderstand both damage scalers. Yes, crit can be the clear winner over physical damage. And as you add more, it scales even higher. But that's only in PvE. But in PvP, it works very differently. And this is where player reduction comes into play. I tested this in a controlled setup against my wife's priest. Please see the difference. No card, Prioni only, and Squid It. So even if you add more crit, it won't matter because your base damage is already reduced. And this is where stacking physical damage started to matter, which changes the entire direction of the build. And I'll explain that later in this video. And this is where the build actually changes, especially when playing sacrifice more aggressively. Gloria Domini started playing a big role. At first, it looks like just another skill, but once it hits, you have a chance to immobilize your enemy for 3 seconds. And even if it doesn't immobilize, it still slows the target during the delay. So, think about it. Add that to the adjusted movement speed of the Cavalier Mastery, you're moving faster, while your target is slowed. That gives you more reach than before. And for a sacrifice build, that's everything. Your reach become much stronger, you can stay on the target longer, chase better, and apply pressure more consistently. And in PvP, that changes how the build plays. As I explained in the previous video, this is where the build really comes together, especially with Naga Shield. With high HP, Reflect Shield starts hitting the attackers consistently, based on your total HP. But there's a trade-off. Using Reflect Shield costs you 50% of your current total physical damage. And this is where the earlier decision starts to matter. This is why I've been stacking P.Dmg to offset that losses, and at the same time, I'm balancing my reductions so I can keep taking damage while still dealing enough back to stay relevant in fights. And this is how I do both roles. Be a tank and still deal damage when I can. Most of you are still asking for my build, but before I do that, please don't just blindly copy it. Try to understand why I choose to build it this way. So, that starts from the baseline. And this is my build with almost everything removed. From here, I'll build it step by step, so you can follow. These are my base stats, including what I can't reset. Like for example, mount stats, bestiary level, my card collections, and seasonal stats. I know I can reset this, but I don't want to. And I know some of you are still asking for my skill build. So here it is. Some of you are also asking for the auto skill setup. So here is my setup. Now then, let's start building. First, armaments. This is my current setup, together with their affixes. For offhand, I switch between Holy Guard for PvE and Naga for PvP. And before I forget, these are my enchantments. Now, cards. I separated mine between PvE and PvP. Let me show you. Here's my PvE setup. And here's my PvP setup. And this is where most of my P damage comes from. Next will be feathers. This is my setup. I don't over-optimize this, so feel free to build your own however you want. Now, medals. This is where big part of my physical damage and reductions comes from. And if you're curious, this is how much it costs to max it. Now, guild skills. They may look small, but they add up, especially for HP. And finally, the pets. This is how I use them. For MVP, I use Vapo Jr. and Squidian. For grinding, I go with Sohei. For PvP and GVG, Child of Earth and Big King. Now, if you compare everything, this is my base build, this is my PvE build, and this is my PvP build. So, this is how I build my Paladin. This is not the ultimate or god setup, but it works. And you'll definitely enjoy playing it. If you notice, I never followed the pattern. I never base my build on what looks strong. Instead, I focus on understanding how it works and where it matters. We're not done yet. The build is still evolving, especially to the late stage of the game. I'll keep testing, and I'll keep sharing what actually changes over time. If you have been testing your own setup, let me know what's working for you. And if this helps, please consider subscribing. See you in the next update.